one of our big initiatives for 2025 is marketing sales alignment. And it's like, oh, that's nice, right? But the issue is, and when we think about, let's talk about alignment. Alignment is basically, we've got common definitions and stages and understanding of roles and responsibilities and service level agreements and metrics, and we're defining how we're working together, right? The biggest problem is that's an internal focused view, right? And especially if our process, if our revenue process is focused on leveraging MQLs, right? That is a drastically broken process, right? And so to me, it's a complete waste of time to try to align sales and marketing to a fundamentally broken process. And what I believe, right, is, so let's be frank, right? The current performance of the revenue process across most organizations is horrendous, right? And it's getting worse. And to me, the major cause of that is slightly influenced by internal marketing and sales alignment. The bigger issue is we're not aligning our process to the way the buyer's buying, right? And part of the factor of that is, our process very often is lead centric, right? We're leveraging leads and MQLs and all that. That is an extremely limited view of what's really going on in the buyer. It's based off of a technology and a process, just a concept that's 25 years old, right? And in those 25 years, there's been just huge dramatic change in the way that buyers want to buy, right? And so the buyer is in control, but an MQL-centric process doesn't recognize that, right? And it's not delivering. What the buyer wants now is, they want to conduct their research and get 65, 70, 75%. The number's kind of immaterial, but they want to do, if we think about the buying process as research and then the purchasing, the buying process itself, and then ultimately the implementation, they want that research phase to be mostly self-service, right? And so what that means is, we need to help that research phase by delivering the optimal experience that we can around the signals that they're telling us about of what solution they're interested in, what stage of the buyer's journey do I think they're in, what role do I think they're playing, right? And if we're ignoring all those signals, then it's fundamentally broken. So that's why I say, focus on aligning your process to the way the buyer wants to buy, and then it's gonna be really natural on how marketing and sales and customer success and everybody works together. But if we're aligning into an old process, 100% waste of time, right? And like I said, I feel like I've stuck my finger in the bee's nest or hornet's nest. Everybody's like, holy cow, this is crazy Terry yet again with these wild thoughts. But it feels like all these stars are aligning, where that's kind of the reality of the world is, we're at this major inflection point, right, where our current process, and especially if it's MQL centric, our current process is just, we have to get off of it. We have no choice. We have to get off of it. And if not, we're going to continue in this death spiral, right? And so I posted, I do all kind of LinkedIn posts, right? But I posted, a couple of weeks ago, or I guess last week, right, that, Salesforce made a big announcement, right? And Salesforce said, hey, we've had difficulty. This was their Q1 2020 FY 2025 performance, right? And they said, hey, it's getting harder and harder to win deals, and that's not a surprise to anybody. I think everybody agrees with that. And then Salesforce said, so part of our remediation on that is we've given guidance / requirement to our sales team that coming into the quarter, they need a 3x pipeline now instead of a 2x pipeline. And I think we'd all kill to go, 3x pipeline. We're probably way beyond that. Salesforce has the luxury of being so dominant. But that change from 2x to 3x pipeline, an increase in pipeline, that's caused sort of those are Star Wars, there's a disturbance in the force or a ripple effect or whatever. But I've got all kind of calls now going, hey, number one, the requirement, the pipeline requirement has gone up. Two bad things happen. One bad thing is no salesperson wants to be on the offender list of not having 3x pipeline, right? So they kind of soften and loosen their definition of what I'm going to put in pipeline, right? Which basically says the quality of what they're adding in the pipeline goes down, right? Which is bad. The other bad thing is they go to marketing and say, hey, marketing, we need more leads, right? And oh, by the way, no more budget. Of course, no more budget. We need more leads. And so very often marketing's like, okay, I'll get you more leads, more MQLs. And what do? Right? They soften their definition of what becomes an MQL, so they hit their number. And so it's a spiral, right? Because getting that artificial 3x number, right? Quality goes down. And guess what's going to happen? Conversion rates go down, and 12 months from now, 18 months from now, it's like, oh, we got to do this again, right? And you know, I'm sure we've all heard and seen this throughout our careers. It kind of is this vicious cycle. We can't do it anymore, right? And especially when our revenue process is based on MQLs, which is, you know, one person and very limited insight on that person. We got to change because you know, just back of the napkin number says, you know, if I'm focused on the MQL and the MQL is what I'm handing off, I'm probably ignoring 95% of the insight that's available about an opportunity and only worrying about that MQL, and that's what I pass off. But I miss all these other signals and all this other insight. And if I pay attention to those, right, I see way better performance in my process. So, you know, my view, my response on oh, we've got to increase pipeline and we got to increase MQLs is no, right? We got to increase efficiency, right? Because we can't buy our way out of this anymore, right? We have this just horrendously inefficient process, and we have all this insight that's available to us that if we leveraged it, deliver incredible results. So yeah, at some point, we're just going to have to stand up and go, we can't do it anymore.